everything comes with a cost. There's a trade-off for it all.
Yeah.
But you can't let your foot up off the gas because some person instills some sort of scarcity in your mindset, and then you stop speaking from the place that you live that just might save someone's life.
Yeah.
And we know men that have been through this where they have answered their phones and talked somebody literally off of a ledge. We also know a man who returned a phone call like a few minutes too late.
Mm-hmm. Welcome, Life in Abundance. We are back at it on a beautiful day in California. It's kind of weird. It's kind of hot for January. And my wife and I are not fighting, which I think in the last, probably since Christmas Eve, which has been about a month, we have came in to each podcast fighting. And today we walked into our podcast room and Kevin, our guy, was like, "What's going on?" We're like, "Oh, we actually haven't been in a fight. We're actually in a good mood."
Yeah. First episode in a long time. It's kind of refreshing.
I feel like the energy's up.
Yeah, it's because it was my hair day. I got my hair done today. I'm feeling good.
Not because we're not fighting.
No, that's actually not it at all.
We are going to Pitbull tonight.
That's right, baby.
Enrique Iglesias and Ricky Martin. It was one of those husband moments where my wife mentioned it 15 times. And I didn't really want to go. And she kept mentioning it. And then she finally texted me, "Buy me 2 tickets. I'm taking a friend." And I was like, oh, maybe I should have listened and bought tickets a couple months ago. So we're going, and we shall see.
Yeah, so I didn't invite a friend, and I allowed Mark to redeem himself, and he did. So we were able to make an agreement to go tonight. I think it's going to be a good time. Although I don't actually care for concerts, to be honest with you. Like, the smoke thing kind of weirds me out. It's not really my thing, so we'll see how long we last.
The smoke thing?
Yeah, like, like not the dry ice, but like the fog machine. Like, I don't really like that.
Why?
Like when they make the arena all smoky. I don't know. It weirds me out. Like, is that necessary?
I don't know if the whole arena is smoked out.
Yeah, it is. I feel like when you open the curtain, it's like smoke comes out. I don't know. It's not my thing. We'll see.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. I'm excited for Pitbull, though. Love him.
I don't like crowds. So we're kind
I
of
don't
smoking
like
crowds, I guess.
That's what Mark wants to say. All right, let's get to it. Today we're talking about being completely open and honest and vulnerable and doing that publicly, and what it costs you and your family. Are you willing to do it? And we kind of learned something from that this week that was new, something we haven't experienced at this level yet, but yeah, it just kind of hit us in the face. So we'll share a little quick story with you all. If you follow me on social media, it's Blonde by Bree. I did 2 lives back to back talking of this topic, and you can reference the 2 videos there. And then Mark got really fired up on his live and talked about it 2 times back to back. And now here we are going to talk about it one more time on the podcast just to clear the air. So let's see, it was Saturday afternoon. I was starting my live in the kitchen with the family home. We were getting ready to go to my daughter's cheer competition. I started my live, and we have a play lemonade stand that came with play money, play quarters that are a little bit bigger than an actual quarter, and our 20-month-old thinks it's funny to put the quarters in her mouth. Mind you, it's Big Sister's toy. It's not her toy. It's Big Sister's. So she puts the quarters in her mouth, smiles, and runs because she wants you to chase her and get them out of her mouth. So it's a game. So I'm on my live, less than a minute in. She puts quarters in her mouth, runs to her room. I follow her and address on my live, "Sorry, guys, I have to follow Coda. She put these quarters in her mouth. I have to get them out of her mouth." So I put the phone down and I said, "Spit the quarters out in Mommy's hand." She spits them out, 3 in my hand, 1 on the floor. So when I dropped my phone, it was muffled. I was searching for the one on the floor. I just ended the live because it was less than a minute long and kind of a circus, and I discarded the live. Got the quarters, put them on the counter, got back on a live. I announced on my live, "Hey, sorry guys, I just went live a minute ago. I had to end it because of this. All is good. We're moving on." Meanwhile, Coda, Selah, and Mark are all in the background running life as normal. And I continue my 10-minute live about whatever even the topic was. But that was it. Sunday morning comes around, 19 hours later. I'm sitting on the couch folding laundry.
Whoa. Was that the surprise?
No, and I have been doing...
I was shocked when I walked in. There was laundry. She was folding. I said,
no.
Did something happen?
No, Sayla has she's a shortage on socks. She kicks them off and we can't find them. So I have to do laundry more frequently. So anyways, Sunday, I'm sitting on the couch under a pile of laundry. Mark is taking the laundry basket back to our room, and we have these big windows in the front, and you could see anybody in our driveway, and there's a sheriff car parked out front. Well, then the sheriff proceeds to walk to the front door, and I said, "Hey, babe, where you going?" He turns around and goes to open the front door. He says, "Hi, officer, how can I help you?" And he says, "Is Bree here?" So it was really weird that he addressed me. Mark looked at me like, who did you piss off? And then just naturally, Mark thought, this must be one of Bree's clients' husbands coming to pay for hair, because that's not something that's weird in our house. Like, a lot of men do that. They'll pay for their wife's hair and like try and make it a surprise, or they'll message me through Instagram. How do I set this up for her? Whatever. Mark doesn't think anything weird about it. And then the officer says, "Is Coda here?" And she can barely talk, right? She's almost 2 years old. She pops around the corner. She goes, "Hi," in Coda's sweet little voice. And we all just kind of like chuckled. We're like, yeah, she's right there. And he comes closer and he says, "We got a report that she was choking in the background of your Instagram video." And Mark looked at me and he's like, I don't even know what he's talking about, because clearly Mark doesn't watch my lives. But anyways, his point was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I said, wait a minute. I'm going back through any videos that I've posted in the last day, or in that moment, I was thinking in the last few minutes, and nothing was posted. So I go back to the one I posted 19 hours ago, and I said formally on the video, Coda put these quarters in her mouth, and I had to chase her down the hallway to spit them out. And then I move on about the business, because clearly my child wasn't dying, choking on quarters, thank God. But I wouldn't have got back on my live if she was. So 19 hours later, somebody felt the need to call the police and report a child choking in the background of my live, making me look like a negligent parent. So there's a price to pay when you decide to be completely honest and vulnerable with people. The point of our lives is that we're living our life out in front of the public because we want people to know we are relatable. We have a 2-year-old or almost 2-year-old. She's busy. She's active. She does things that a 20-month-old does, keeping us on our toes. And we know as we expose that to the world, there's a price to pay. Like, somebody could not like you. Somebody could not like what you're saying. Somebody might feel that you are saying something that hits a little too close to home. And then they feel the need to not like you because of that and call the cops on you. Pin you as a negligent parent. Traumatize your kids by the police coming up to the front door asking for their mommy. And your 4-year-old not really sure how to process that. Now every time Amazon comes to the door, she's worried. Is it the police, mommy? Are the police here again? No, baby, not the police. You're good. We're safe. So you make this commitment in this coaching space like we do to be real and raw with our audience, right? And our audience are just people just like us, living life day to day, trying to figure it out. And the trade-off for that is you make sacrifices to expose your life where there are incidents where the cops could be called because somebody didn't like what you had to say. Mm-hmm. So how'd this sit for you, honey, as the husband, the protector of our household, the dad? What did this make you feel in the moment?
In the moment, I was like, actually, I need to get my phone. This is content. like it was one of those things where, like, when you get pulled over by a cop and you're speeding, you know you did something wrong, right? Like, he walks up like, we did nothing. We've done nothing wrong. And when he asked for Bree and Coda, and he said someone said that, right? You said it a bunch of times in the last couple minutes. You're like, people feel. It's all your feelings. Mm-hmm. And everyone, for some reason nowadays, we're entitled to respect people's feelings, or if they have a feeling about you, they could call the police, they could they could talk crap about you on the internet, whatever it might be, because they feel a certain, because you offended them or you. It's like at the end of the day, it's like I had someone who I didn't know message me, and they're like, well, how did they get your address? And maybe they were just concerned. And I was like, well, they could have DM'd my wife, and they got my address because the cops have your address. You just say a name. And so it's like, well, okay, like, what does that have to do with anything?
That's beside the point. Yeah, that was 19 hours ago. If you were genuinely concerned for the livelihood of my child, my phone number's listed on my profile, my email address is there, my website is there, my husband's tagged there. There are many avenues to get a hold of me if you're like, hey, you didn't report back what happened to your child. And I did, you just didn't look. If that was really your concern. The truth is, somebody wants to appear to be the hero and report you and pin you as a negligent parent, but really, in all reality, it's to make themselves feel better.
Just a Karen.
I hate that. I know a lot of good Karens.
Well, no, but that's what we say. It's Karen.
No, I know. I'm going to come up with another phrase because I don't like that one. But my point is, 19 hours later, officer, are we really doing this? He was genuinely embarrassed that he was making this call. When he walked up to our home, I have our worship music playing. The kids have all their toys playing. I'm doing mom duties. Mark's doing dad duties.
I mean, if the guy could have walked in at a perfect timing, he did.
Yeah.
Because Bree looked like the all-American parent. I'm telling you right now, like, it was like, I was like, well, I look like a mess because I just got back from the gym and my hair wasn't, I look like I was homeless.
Okay, let's clear the air. I don't like to do freaking laundry.
But Bree looked like the all-American woman right there, and the kids were playing, have a good time, and it was just like...
But when I am home, my kids are always in my presence. They are in any room that I am in. That is not abnormal.
Might want to take that one back, because what happened the same day? I walked in.
Hold on, this is not relevant. This story is not relevant.
Well, no, it's relevant to what you just said. Because that same day when she choked on quarters, or fake quarters.
She didn't freaking choke. She put them in her mouth like the game we play.
And so about a couple hours later, I get home, and I said, hey, have you been in our bathroom? And she was doing her sister's hair on the other side of the house. I said, no, why? I said, well, Coda just sprayed about a half a tube of lotion into my UGG slippers and all over the ground. She's like, okay, and I'm like, well, she's got like, do you not see?
No,
like,
I think the exact words is, who's watching our kid?
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
clearly not me.
Maybe I called the police.
Maybe you did. Maybe you did. But in all reality, this is what happens in my household.
Yeah, it happens. If you got multiple kids or you have one kid, there's that 4 or 5 minutes where you're like, oh shit.
It wasn't even 4 or 5 minutes. It was like she walked in, the lotion's down, she pumps it 5 times and in your slippers and she's out.
It wasn't the pump one. It was open a bottle and squeeze it. So it was a lot more
She's super
effort.
smart. Well, maybe you left it open.
It was your lotion.
Doesn't matter regardless. Oh, that was my tanning lotion. I was wondering why that was in the trash.
See, guys, we didn't get in an argument beforehand, but we might get in one right now in the middle of this podcast.
Either way, this is relevant to where we are in life because we have a toddler and she's into shit. And you just do it. That's how we all survived life. We ended up being fine. I'm pretty sure my parents didn't baby-proof every square inch of our house, and I survived.
But like this whole thing goes back to like COVID is the best example. It's just like, tell someone if they're not staying 6 feet apart. Tell them if they're wearing a mask. Like, because if you feel a certain way, if you feel this, right? And it's just like, okay, well, your feelings are great, but I really don't care. Like that like.
They shouldn't dictate how I live my life, though. You're entitled to your feelings. You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
But how I'm doing my life over here, I don't need your opinion or your feelings for me to dictate my next move. And it's such a compliment. I find it flattering that you think I would consider what my next move is because of the way that you feel.
Yeah, I mean, like we have a buddy that's in our class that he had his he had a video made of him with his son at his skate shop. And the son wanted to buy a skateboard. And the son was being a wiener all day. And the dad goes, do you think you need a skateboard because you've been a dick to the whole family? It's the kid. And the kid's like, yeah, I don't think I deserve one. He gets CPS call on him 2 days later at their house.
And the whole thing is on video.
Yeah.
So why CPS waste their time to show up there because a father called his son called him out for what he's doing?
Yeah.
It was put on social media. Now you're going to attack their parenting. You don't have to agree with their parenting, but the kid, he openly admitted he was not living up to code where he deserved to get a skateboard.
I'm like, it all goes back if you're doing the work. It all goes back if you are doing the work on yourself. When you're not focused on you, that's when you start focusing on other people, because that's easier. That's more comfortable. Because to hold a mirror up to yourself and see the things that you haven't done, it's like the biggest thing, like with spouses, especially men. Like men always want to say like what their wives are not doing and how much sex they're not having and what they're not doing. You know, it's like, hey guys, have you ever held a mirror up to your face and been like, what are you not doing more of? To have your wife maybe have an opposite thought, or no? Like, it's usually everyone wants to comment on everyone else and never themselves. They never want to look at themselves and be like, I messed up.
Yeah, there's a lack of accountability in society and taking responsibility for your own actions or lack thereof. And I'm so over it. And then I entertain feelings like this, like, oh, you must be a bad parent, so we're going to call the police on you. I dare you to give me that lady's phone number so we could have a face-to-face conversation, because she didn't have enough guts to call me herself and do that. I have no problem to address an issue that I don't agree with. If it affects me, if it's not affecting me, do you live life how you want to live, but don't you dare come at me and tell me how I need to do mine. Doesn't work like that. So the interesting through this whole process was how this played out for our kids and how we had to lead by example through the situation and explain to them, not everybody's going to like what we do, but we don't compromise who we are and what we believe in because of somebody else's comfort. Because then we're not living up to our standard, serving our purpose and our calling, and we don't stand for that. That's not how we do life in our house. So I get it. It's not for everybody. It's hard for people to understand, and maybe even this podcast is hard for people to listen to. But you're invited to be a part of this. It's not an obligation. Just like you're invited to be a part of our life through social media. It's not an obligation. It's a choice. And it seems like so many people in this world is like, well, they put it out there. I have to listen to it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. That's a story you made up because you're insecure in yourself.
Ooh. You're on a roll right now.
But it's true.
100.
And I deal with this in the space of women coaching all the time. As people so impacted and influenced by other people's thoughts and feelings that they compromise who they are for the comfort of others. And then they can't really get done what they need to get done. If I did that in business, I would not be nearly as successful as I am. You know why? Because standing up for what I believe in, speaking truth in a space where it's respected, even when it's not respected, I found that there are more like me than are against me. I found there are more people that want to interact and engage than don't. And the ones that don't, I'm not worried about it because they're not my people. I wasn't meant to gather everyone. I wasn't called to serve everyone. I was called to serve those in my path who we align, who I can coach and mentor and love through the process. Not everyone. God never promised me everyone. That's my game.
Yeah, I know. I think that's one of the biggest things not everyone, but most people try to do is they try to make everyone happy. They try to make everyone comfortable. And it's just like you had that thought of when that person called the police, you're sitting there for a minute like, well, maybe we shouldn't put our kids on social media. Maybe we shouldn't do those things. And I was like, no. Like, that's one person. Like, who cares? Like, let's go. Like, you have impacted so many people by opening up and being out there that you're going to let one person or maybe a handful of people in the last 4 or 5 years dictate what you do. If that's the case, you're going to be in the same shitty situation you've always been, just like they are.
Yeah.
And that's where I had to like dig into me in the past was I let so many people dictate because I wanted to be comfortable, like my value and what I wanted, that I was going down to their level and I wasn't rising to the level that I know I needed to be at. And man, it's such an easy thing because it's so easy to just shut it down. It's so easy to stop. It's so easy to just have the donut. It's so easy to not talk to the wife, to not have the conversation of, hey man, that hurt my feelings. Like people don't do that anymore. No. Like people don't just go, hey, like this is how I feel. Like, what do you think? Because they don't want to have that awkward conversation because typically they're not in alignment with what they should be doing. Mm-hmm. And that is about 100% of the time. It's just like I use this all the time. If you go after someone who is not in shape and you go, why are you fat? And they're not doing the work, that's when they get very sensitive. That's when they get, whoa. But the people that are doing the work, they're like, hey, man, I've lost 20 pounds. I go to the gym every day and I got a trainer. Perfect. Go. When you do the work and you get pushed back on, you have a ground to stand on. Mm-hmm. When you're not doing the work and you want to make everyone feel better and you're not doing it, you're done.
Because your words have no integrity. That's really what it comes down to. Your words have no integrity. So I could stand there and look the police officer in the eye and tell him, this was the video posted. Do you see a problem here? I see a greater problem that you were called to my home and you're wasting time and taking it away from somebody who really could need your help. That's the greater problem here. But for a slight second, my mind slipped back into scarcity of, should I be doing this? Should I be exposing my children? Should I be sharing this? Because for a quick second, I questioned the authority that the officer had standing at my front door. Could he take my child? That's not how that works in this world. And so for a quick second...
Maybe in this world, but not in this house.
Not in this house. For a quick second, I questioned, holy shit, what kind of authority does he have coming here from just hearsay? And the sickest part about it, guys, is this could happen to anyone, anywhere, and you can't do anything about it. They have to show up and report. But the one line that I will never forget is officer who called. I can't tell you that. Of course you can't, because that person's a coward. They know that. So you really want to address an issue, let's talk about who said it, who saw it, and let me have a conversation with them. Then you might want to show up. That conversation you might want to be there for.
So many keyboard weasels.
Yeah.
Just wanting to spit, not truth, and just angry and...
But that is why we share our life, is because people sitting in those positions feel more alone and more disconnected than anybody even out on a walk by themselves outside. Is because our technology, our world has created isolation to be normal, and that's not normal. We are social human beings. We are meant to be social. We're meant to have connection and community and conversation. When you don't do that, you find yourself slipping into the place of being lonely. And loneliness is the saddest place to live because that's where scarcity exists the most. That's why solitary confinement is the worst punishment for any human being. Solitary confinement, think of what that is. I mean, for me, what I'm meant to do is share love and light through community, through connection, through exposure to the world of how I live my life. So you're not alone. Reach out to me, DM me, have a conversation with me. I'm more than happy to hear you out. But you better be ready, because I'm going to come at you with my truth and speak in integrity. And I'm not compromising that for anyone's fucking feelings.
If you're listening to this on a podcast and not on YouTube, my eyes are about as big as a raccoon right now. And my wife is dropping dimes.
That is the truth. And I know some people aren't going to like that. And I know a lot of Christians are going to be like, man, she uses the F word. I do. When I'm talking passionately about protecting my kids, or, hey, if I saw somebody abusing your kid and it wasn't right, you better believe I'd come with the same amount of passion. I would hope that somebody would stand up for me and for what was right. And you know what counts is what you do when people aren't looking. Mm-hmm. So just like this troll behind her keyboard, I'm saying to her because I'm sure that's what it was, but a troll behind their keyboard, they don't have any integrity. They can't have a conversation with me because it would require them to take ownership for what they're doing or not doing and living in integrity.
It's pretty interesting. Like, the more vulnerable you become and more public, the more people like to talk. The more people get uncomfortable.
Yeah, because we're ruffling feathers. We're not happy, clappy, we're going to have a good sermon today kind of people. We're going to talk about the truth and the pain that people are going through today in their life. And that doesn't always feel good. You might not leave my sermon feeling good, but you know what you are going to leave with? A mental note of what you might need to do differently this week before you show up in front of me again on Sunday.
Yeah.
Because by your fruit they shall know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to speak the scripture, but we're not going to live it. That's not how we play our game. I did that for a lot of years. In my home, I spoke my scriptures, but I didn't exactly live it because my marriage was broken. And I felt like I had to appear to the world that I had this perfect life so that I could build the business that I wanted to build, attract the dream clients I wanted to attract, when in all reality, if I would have been more open and honest and vulnerable in that moment, I probably would have recruited more clients because I'm more relatable to people, because that's real life and not this picture perfect, whatever, NBR Barbie hair that I was selling at the time. Did that build my business? Yes, but I could have done it 10 times faster, I bet, being in this space right now.
Yeah.
So when you lead from where you live, you're a different kind of leader. You have a different kind of respect. And what's funny, at the end of the day, I am not doing any of this for other people. This is all for me to serve my purpose and my calling with God.
Yeah.
And not one time when I accepted this did I think, how is that going to make so-and-so feel? And thank God.
Well, if you do that, you're not going to get very far, because I did that for a long time.
Yeah.
I was always worried about what people might say, might think. And then it was this weird thing where God just shook me and like, go. And so I'm speaking every day, your podcast, we're doing these things and talking to people. And it's like, hey man, like I might say something that you don't like. Great. But like, tell me what you think, and tell me those things. Because if you don't tell me, I don't know. And for the longest time, no one ever told me, and I never told anyone else. So like, how do I expect to get anywhere? Right. And in this coaching program, we ask a bunch of questions, but if you're not honest and upfront with yourself, and let alone me, it ain't going to work. Mm-hmm. And it's just, yeah, man, it's just like most people are so worried about what other people think or are doing that they don't ever stop and go, well, how can I be better? Like, I might not agree with what Mark and Bree are saying. I might not agree with what Donald Trump is saying or whoever else is like that. But, like, maybe I can learn something from that and be better. Mm-hmm. Or maybe not. You know what? Thank you guys, but I don't like it, so thanks. Cool, no problem. Or ask a question. Like, that never hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for real. Well, you know how to get a mama fired up is come at her kids or come at her about the way she parents her kids. It's a different ball game.
This is, if you guys don't know this, Bree's half Mexican. This is the Mexican in her right here.
That's right. Watch out.
This is her Latina.
No, I was raised by a dominant woman who never wavered what she believed in. Mm-hmm. And she taught me how to be that woman, no matter who I was in front of, no matter how the climate of the room was. I don't change. This is me behind the salon chair. This is me on a podcast. This is me at dinner with my pastor. And you can ask him and he'll tell you. So it was a funny story. I asked him to start getting involved. I needed a connection to get involved with this, the Christian women's business community or connection. I can't remember the real name. And he says, I can connect you, but I think that you might be a little bit too much fire for them. Even better. Let me sit at one of those tables because I like that kind of stuff. It allows me to kind of balance in areas that I'm not great at. I had a coaching call yesterday with my coach, actually. And I said, you know what, Garrett? You know what's hard for me is to sit in a room and not take control of it. I need coaching with that. I need help to not take over the conversation. I have a really hard time coaching with somebody else if they don't do it the way that I do it. I want control of my room. I want control over my coaching program. And he's like, yeah, that's going to be something hard for you. But I love that he didn't offer me any sort of coaching through the process. It's you've got to figure it out and you've got to learn it, and I can't do the work for you. And that's how we do our coaching program. I'm going to ask you questions to lead you to your own answers, but you have to get there by doing the work yourself. So there's more power in that than, cheating and getting the answers from somebody. When you discover them yourself, you're more likely to follow through and do it. Yeah?
I mean, you have crushed this episode. I'm hoping someone does call the police now, because I will have my man Kevin there with 9 cameras, and we'll get every angle. And we are going to
let's have a
maximize
conversation.
this content.
Let's have a conversation. Get off your keyboard and pick up your phone. Let's have a conversation. That's all I'm saying.
And what's so cool about Bree and I is that, me personally, a year ago, I would have been terrified to have a conversation. Like, if somebody were to ask me questions and pushing back on my frame, I'd be terrified because I'm not doing the work. Now someone can come at me and I can be truthfully honest with every aspect of my life. I have nothing to hide. The most dangerous man in the room has nothing to hide. And Bree and I are at that point in our lives where we're like,
we're exposing it all.
This is all of us. Take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And that scares people because they're like, I mean, it even scares like our parents. They're like, are you sure you should be doing this? Mm-hmm. Like, Bree called her sister the first person after the cops came, and she's like, well, Bree, just be careful, just do this, and it's like.
No, she told me, you have to expect this when you're putting your life out there. This is what comes with it.
Yeah.
And she was absolutely right. But she didn't tell me don't do it. She said, this is part of the cost.
Yeah.
If you're willing to commit and say yes, then you're saying yes to this too. People don't realize that everything comes with a cost. There's a trade-off for it all.
Yeah.
But you can't let your foot up off the gas because some person instills some sort of scarcity in your mindset, and then you stop speaking from the place that you live that just might save someone's life.
Yeah.
And we know men that have been through this where they have answered their phones and talked somebody literally off of a ledge. We also know a man who returned a phone call like a few minutes too late.
Mm-hmm.
So the coaching space for us is very real because the level of pain we are seeing from people are things that the world doesn't talk about because that would appear to not be picture perfect on Instagram or fit the TikTok, your filter or whatever. We're not filtering it here anymore. We're living very raw and real right before your eyes. So that the shit that happens behind your closed doors, you're normal for having these fears. You're normal for having anxiety. You're normal for having blah, blah, blah. But what you choose to do about it is completely within your power.
Mm.
And what I was living with behind closed doors in my marriage, I promised I would never, ever allow in my life ever again. Because I wanted more for me. I wanted more for us. And I knew ultimately Mark did too. I had to lead him to a place, though, where he could openly admit that, though. Where he could openly admit that where we were wasn't right. Because for the longest time, we were in denial about it or just not even speaking of it. That's almost worse. So you become stale and coexist and, did life so it appeared good on camera, but didn't really have connection and intimacy at the level that we do now because we can be real with each other and have a fight on a podcast or right before it and then walk ourselves through it. And sometimes some fights affect us for weeks. Some fights are still lingering. We haven't got all the way to the core issue, but we're never going to go without talking about it again because we did that for far too many years. That just led us to a path that was really close to divorce. And we don't want that for other people. So we talk passionately about this, openly about this, so that you don't feel alone. And then to also display that you can recover from those dark places. And we went through a very dark place before we saw a glimpse of light. But I promise you, it's there, it exists if you are willing to work for it. But it takes an equal partnership. And for a long time, I was in a partnership that was not a partnership. Not 50-50 anyways, not 100-100. And we had to work through those really hard conversations. What do you have to say about where you're at now and where we're at now? And the commitment level you have to it?
Where I was at, man, I was I was that person that called the cops. Like I was the one not doing the work. I was the one that was showing up so up and down, inconsistent, not putting effort into anything I wanted, not putting any effort into my marriage, not putting any effort into my body and my kids. And it took my wife to lead me to that place. And she never told me. She just led me that way, saying, hey, this is like you have to change. And not saying that you got to do it for me, but you got to do it for yourself. And I had to take a long, hard look in the mirror at myself and being like, hey, have you done everything you can? And it's kind of a weird place because I was doing about 80% of the things correct. And I was committed, right? I never cheated, never did anything that you're like, oh my gosh, that's super bad. But like, I knew it was bad. I knew I wasn't putting in 100%. So I wasn't really committed. I was kind of committed. And that's the worst part.
You were committed enough.
I was committed enough. And that's the worst kind of man, because you show up, you think 100%, but it's realistically like 50. And
I don't agree with that. I don't think you show up thinking 100%. You show up knowing you're lying, and that's why you deal with guilt and shame, because you knew that you weren't fully showing up, but you wanted it to appear like
I was checking the boxes. I was doing the laundry. I was making dinner. Everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, Mark, like you do so much," and I was like, "Hey, Bree, see."
You're so freaking great. Yeah.
Like my camera guy, Kevin, he always compliments me, and I love it more than anything.
Feed the beast.
Yeah,
Feed the beast, Kev.
But no, yeah, you're right. I was lying to myself, but it appeared from the outside that I was like doing it all.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. And so.
And we're still working through that. I'm still mad about it.
Yeah. And honestly, I deserve it. I deserve, because it was so many years that I showed up like that, and it's only been a year or two that I've cleaned it up. Mm-hmm. And I totally get that. I have. There's a lot of emotions that Bree has buried for the years that haven't came out, and they will come out, and I have to wear that just like she wore me, being the slapdick that I was for all those years.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, Bree, you're pretty good at this podcast, I do have to say.
You're not so bad yourself.
Thank you.
Well, I think for us, where we're at is narrowing down our client, the ideal client that we work with. And it's like, is there such thing as an ideal client? I think for every client, your circumstances may be different, but the struggle of insecurity or lack of confidence and lack of alpha in a relationship is real for a man. And for a woman with a dominant wife. I'm a very dominant personality. If you didn't get that by this podcast, you should probably move on. But that is my personality and how I operate. And it's made me very successful. But I also have a commitment level that is unwavering. And I know what I want. That's also very intimidating. I understand that. I know there's many men out there married to dominant women who know exactly what they want. And I know a lot of those women because they sit in my chair. You know why? Because they're drawn to me. I challenge them. I get them to say hard stuff. I get them to talk about the things that they don't want to talk about because they have to be this dominant role and, project themselves to look a certain way or carry themselves a certain way to scale in business or be the perfect church leader or whatever it is. But I get to the raw and the real with some of these women because it's safe with me. It's safe to say that out loud. There's no judgment there because I was her. So I can relate to you. There's no judgment there because I am you. So for Mark, in his coaching space, with men coaching them through where they're at, most of his clients are married to dominant women. And they're like, hey man, I can relate to you. My wife is a freaking beast, and I love that about her. But I want to pony up and be the man in my household like you've made that transformation for you in your household. And I can tell you right now, man, like there's nothing sexier to me than when my husband shows up, not for me, but for him. He's looking good for date night for him. He notices that I notice. I don't give out many compliments, and that's a problem in our household I'm working on. But for a long time, that was my way to get back at him. I know that there's some narcissistic, like backwards shit there going on, but we're working through it. But the truth is, he helps men work through those issues and those insecurities. And most of the time, they're triggered from a female who's very dominant. So we know that place very well. Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it's my coach is married to a very dominant female, and one of our first calls ever, he says, I'm going to ask you a question, and you need to be completely honest with me. I said, yeah, what is it? He goes, is it intimidating being married to a dominant woman? I said, yes. He goes, good job.
You passed.
You passed. He said, my therapist asked me that same question, and I answered the same way. And he said, it's every guy wants that woman that's confident, that knows what she wants and all that. And you're like, yeah, it's great. But when you don't, but when you get it, might not be exactly what you want. Because I know for a lot of men, they like to be a little lazy. They like that comfortable. They like that easy. They don't want to show up in all aspects of life. They want to be able to get away with kind of having a soft body. They want to be able to get away with not planning date nights just because they make the money. Or if they're married to a producer, they're like, yeah, she's got it, I'm good. No, that's not usually how that goes. And your woman, like Bree said, she wants you to show up for you. And when you start showing up with like checklists of like, see, I did this. Hey, I've won this many times. You've only done this. You know, all these things. That makes you like another child that she's raising. And not good.
No, your wife wants to be led by a man, so be a fucking man. It's not that hard. Not that hard. Just be a man. Kevin, why are you smiling over there? Are you worried you're not being the man? No, Kevin is the man. That's actually what he is known in our house. Kevin, the boss. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't even know his real last name. I just call him Kevin Boss. I don't even know his real last name. So
it doesn't matter. He's running this show right now.
Well, if you are watching on YouTube and you love the new camera angle switch and all that, give my boy Kevin a shout out and give us a like on Instagram or on Facebook and a download and a follow. And then also on any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, any of those, give us a good like and a good review.
Yeah.
And until next time, we will talk to you later. Life in abundance. God is good.
Bye, guys.